Hey everyone, my name is Joshua McSorley. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be going over the 4 main reasons I no longer recommend using WordPress in 2023. At the end of this video, I'll go over what I recommend using instead based on a few common use cases. Let's get into it. The 4 main reasons I no longer recommend using WordPress to 90% of the people that I speak to, and some of the reasons why I stopped using it over 6 years ago, have to do with ease of use in comparison to the competition, the amount of overwhelm that people get based on the sheer amount of information that's out there, security vulnerabilities, and maintenance that's associated with all of those vulnerabilities. All right, WordPress was released back in 2003, making it officially over 20 years old, which by itself is not really a great reason to not use WordPress, but when you take into consideration the competition, it just hasn't kept up. Whether you're a designer, developer, small business owner, creator, startup founder, there's going to be a website builder that fits your needs. Platforms like Squarespace, Wix, Webflow, and Shopify all have a suite of features that have a shorter learning curve, are easier to maintain, and don't require plugins to do basic functionality that should honestly be built in at this point. Of course, the platform that you ultimately end up choosing will depend on what type of website you're trying to create, your level of expertise, and the creative ambition that you have for the website, which we're going to get into at the end of this video. The second reason that I no longer recommend WordPress has to do with the sheer number of choices that you have available to you. There are literally thousands of templates, plugins, blog posts, YouTube videos, all talking about WordPress, which, while it doesn't necessarily lead to a longer learning curve, can actually cause choice paralysis, especially for beginners that are new to making websites. There's actually a famous study that was done by 2 psychologists called the JAM study. The study was conducted in a gourmet market where consumers were presented with a tasting booth. There were 2 conditions, one where there was an extensive number of choices, and 2 where there was a limited number of choices. Researchers then observed the interactions of customers at each booth, noting how many customers tasted the jams and how many customers actually made purchases. Findings show that there was generally more interest in the booth that had the extensive options, but more purchases were made when there was a limited number of choices. What does this have to do with WordPress? Well, part of the reason that so many customers choose to use WordPress is the fact that it has so many options. There's so many themes, plugins, and it has a wide range of capabilities. But what WordPress doesn't want you to know is that because there are so many options, it's actually going to take you longer to create your first website and probably end up costing more in the long run. And those costs that I just mentioned often have to do with security vulnerabilities due to poorly maintained plugins. Which brings me to my next point, security. Because WordPress is the world's most popular content management system, it's frequently targeted by hackers. And while Webflow itself is generally secure, the wide ecosystem of plugins and hosting environments introduce vulnerabilities that require regular maintenance and backups. Which brings me to my 4th point, maintenance. While you would generally think maintenance is an automated task that you don't need to worry about and never breaks anything, that's simply not the case when it comes to WordPress. Oftentimes, what you'll see is marketers or WordPress developers installing plugins that are poorly supported in order to expand upon WordPress's functionality, which can result in security vulnerabilities if that plugin is not well maintained. So what would I recommend in 2023 instead of WordPress? The technology that you choose is ultimately going to depend upon the ambition you have for your project, the amount of experience you have making websites, and the purpose of your website. For example, if you're a designer who wants to create stunning websites, or you're interested in learning front-end development, you might want to consider using Webflow. It has a robust feature set that lets you create highly customizable websites with rich animations, has built-in image optimization, and accessibility tools to help with WCAG compliance. If you're a non-technical startup founder, small business owner, or student, you might want to actually consider using something like Squarespace or Shopify. Both Squarespace and Shopify make it super easy to get started. All you have to do is pick out a template that you like, add your logo, and update the colors to match your brand, swap out some images, maybe swap out the default font, and if you're making an e-commerce website, you just need to add all of your product details to the CMS. And unlike WordPress or Webflow, both Squarespace and Shopify have built-in analytics, so you don't need to add third-party software like Google Analytics, Hotjar, or Microsoft Clarity until you're ready to optimize your website for advertising or search engines. Alright, that's it for me. I hope you found this video useful. If you learned anything, go ahead and give it a like. You can click here to see my latest video, and you can check out the description below for a link to my blog post where I talk about everything that you need to know before you make a website.